It's go time, this is Game Day Sports Radio. Hope you got your game face on, let's go. We be talking all sports, every year a new season. Who the best players are and who your favorite team is. Dr. and Parker got what you need. When it comes to the podcast, we're still undefeated. We hate losing, we're on a winning streak. Come and see us, we'll be here talking sports every week.
Alright, welcome back into the unique Beatz studio here in Wabash, Indiana for another episode of Game Day. I'm Ethan Doctor alongside my good friend Josh Parker, and here we go.
How we doing? We're here for another episode, like Ethan said, for Game Day. I'm going to do a little article here from the college playoffs. We're going to talk a little bit about that. It was just within Wikipedia. The college football playoff is an annual postseason knockout invitational tournament to determine a national championship for the National Collegiate Athletic Association, which is called the NCAA. Division I football subdivisions, FBS, is the highest level of college competition in the United States. 4 teams play in 2 semifinal games, and the winner of each semifinal advances to the college football playoff national championship game. So what do you think on the college football playoff, Ethan?
Well, the playoff was actually it was installed in 2014 when they went from the BCS National Championship to the playoff with 4 teams, when the BCS National Championship game only had 2 teams. Now the committee is looking to expand to 12 teams, and with that 12-team format, each of the 4 conference champions would receive a first-round bye, and then but for independent teams like Notre Dame, they wouldn't receive any bye at all because they are not part of the conference. But Notre Dame would get a home game in January in freezing South Bend, Indiana. So there's good news and bad news to this playoff.
Yeah, it looks like they have, 3 championship games, 2 semifinal games. So it looks like there's a college football playoff national championship trophy. They're going to be airing that on ESPN. And just to give you a little insight, it looks like Alabama and Clemson had the most playoff appearances.
Yeah, Alabama's no shocker since Nick Saban took over. They've been a powerhouse. Clemson, they've been on the rise every year since 2014. When I was in elementary school, was their first national championship game, and they've been good ever since. They've defeated Notre Dame twice in that playoff, and it hurt every single time that I watched it. So those 2 teams, no shocker. Ohio State's probably trailing them since they're always kind of the powerhouse of the Big Ten, and then probably Oklahoma after that.
Very, very nice. And Alabama's always had a solid team these last few years, you know that?
Mm-hmm.
I think last year I was taking Notre Dame all the way in my bracket.
Mm-hmm. yeah.
And who ended up winning it last year?
Alabama, actually.
It was Alabama.
They beat Ohio State, and they were just a relentless team, stacked.
Right, they had a pretty stacked team, yeah, for sure. I would agree on that totally, Ethan. It looks like the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Clemson Tigers, they faced several years but 2 teams in the playoffs. I was going to say something about the Buckeyes, who defeated the Oregon Ducks in the championship game for the NCAA back in 2014 football season. But then I totally forgot what I was going to say. But anything else on that playoff?
With the playoff, I think that would be a good expansion, but I think it would have to go within weeks of each other because football is a tough game to play. I think they'd have to kind of space it out in between location and times of games and networks. But I would be excited as a fan to watch this, especially watch a southern team like Florida or Georgia go to Notre Dame in January. So I hope this goes through, but if it's on a 4-team playoff, I won't complain.
Yeah, I won't complain either. So it looks like we got 2 semifinal games rotate among 6 major bowl games referred to as the New Year's Six, the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl. I believe there's an Orange Bowl, Cotton Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, and the Beach Bowl. So in addition to the 4 teams selected for the playoff, the final CFP rankings are used to help determine the participants for the other 4 New Year's Six Bowls that are not hosting the semifinals that year. The semifinal games, which take place on the same day, are usually scheduled on Friday, Saturday, or Monday close to the New Year's Day, with flexibility allowed to ensure that they are not conflicted with other bowl games traditionally held on New Year's Day, like the national championship game is then played on the first Monday that is 6 or more days after the semifinals. So a little bit of history on that.
Yeah, like I said, the 14 playoff format was used back in 2014. That seeding is a very important part in your team's success. So unless you're a team like Alabama, who rarely ever gets beaten, for example, that Ohio State team that ended up beating Oregon, they had to run into Alabama. They were the 4 seed, and they somehow pulled off an upset and then just trounced Oregon in the national championship game. So we'll see what happens with the next couple of weeks if they expand it. If they don't, like I said, can't really complain. Their decision.
So we're going to go right in here to the Clippers and Suns game yesterday. From what I see here about the stats, this is a 1-point deficit. So it looks like the Suns took it for that 2-0 lead that they've got going on here. So what's your insight on that, Doctor?
Well, this Phoenix Suns team came out of nowhere. They were missing Chris Paul, their point guard, but Devin Booker, who dropped a triple-double the other day, he was able to step up and fill in. But last night's victory was because of Jay Crowder and Aiden with .9 to go on the clock. Their coach drew up a Hail Mary type situation, an alley-oop to Aiden to seal the game, where he was able to knock it in, put the Suns up 2-0. Very, very important since first team to 4 games wins. But with the Clippers missing Kawhi Leonard, who is their other superstar next to Paul George, they've been down bad. So we'll see if the Clippers can knock the series up at home as they go to Los Angeles for the next game.
And I do believe they're on Game 3 when? Tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Very, very nice. So hopefully the Suns take it. What's your aspect? Are you wanting the Clippers or the Suns?
I'm kind of rooting for the Suns. I like Chris Paul. He hasn't had a championship yet, and I like Devin Booker. I just like this whole entire Suns organization. They were kind of a wild card to come in and go there, but they've beaten the odds, and now they're either going to run into the Atlanta Hawks, who's another dark horse, or the Milwaukee Bucks, and both those teams can be a challenge. But I think the Suns team is the best built team remaining in the playoffs, so I think they'll end up winning the championship.
So for Game 3 tomorrow at 9 p.m. on ESPN, Conference Finals, looks like Phoenix is leading them up 2-0. I want to read a little quick article that has been posted here at the CBS. The Western Conference Finals continued in thrilling fashion on Tuesday night as the Phoenix Suns beat the Los Angeles Clippers 104-103 on, I do believe it's Ayton's last second 10 tip-in. I believe Ethan was talking about that here just a few minutes. With the win, the Suns are now up to 2-0 in the series, and Chris Paul hasn't even played yet. With their leader expected to return for Game 3, they have a great chance to advance to the finals for the first time since '93. But before we got too far ahead of ourselves, it's worth looking back at the incredible finish to Game 2. There were 4 lead changes in the final 30.9 seconds alone, and all which took approximately an hour to complete due to a number of challenges, including a controversial reversal that went against Devin Booker. What's your insight on that, Doctor?
The play that Parker's talking about is a review where it looks like Booker touched the ball and they decided to give it to the Clippers when actually the replay showed the ball didn't touch Booker, and that if the Clippers would have won that game, that would have been talked about more than the game winner itself. But the replay was very important with that short amount of time going. And that's the reason why they have NBA replays, to make sure, that the correct call is made. That's why replays in any sport, but especially in the NBA, because every game matters in the playoffs.
So that didn't end up mattering in the end, though, because the Suns got the win in a remarkable fashion. They did it, and thanks to a great play design, a perfect pass by Crowder, a tough screen by Booker, and the explanation of a little known rule. Here's how it happened. Traveling by 1 less than a second to play, the Suns had the ball and were taking out underneath their own basket while they technically had time for a catch and shoot. It's difficult to execute one cleanly with a little time left, so Monty Williams drew up a play for a tip in at the basket. To start things off, the Suns line up in a 4 across formation at the free throw line.
With that, and that, one thing that's missing is a hard screen by Booker. Without that hard screen, the defender's still on Aiden, and he can't get that, or he can't get there for the pass. That's a great pass by Crowder, especially in the angle that he was at. He had a chance of hitting the backboard, but he put it right on the money to Aiden, where Aiden just did the rest. But basically with 0.9, you only have time to touch it, and it has to go in. So I was a little bit surprised that it went in, to be honest, with that short amount of time. But they got it done, and they're up 2-0, and they've got all the momentum and support behind them right now.
So it looked like Eaton finished the game with 24 points, 14 rebounds to continue an incredible run this postseason. In addition to making the biggest shot of his career, he recorded his 5th 20-by-10 game of the playoffs after having only 9 such games in the entire regular season.
Yeah, Aiden is definitely a force to reckon with. He was able to shut down many of these great players during the playoffs, and I'm excited to watch what the Suns team does with Chris Paul back. It takes all the pressure off Devin Booker, or some of the pressure off, and Booker was able to drop 40 points the other day in their Game 1 victory, so we'll see if he can continue his hot streak. Actually, on FS1, it was ESPN, he was referenced to being the next Kobe Bryant, and that's a little bit of that's high praise considering Kobe was able, what Kobe left on the game. But I saw some similarities. His mid-range is definitely a lot like Kobe, just his mindset in general. I think he could definitely live up to that hype.
So we're really looking forward to Game 3, and I do believe we'll talk about that here on our next episode, episode 4 of Game Day. My name's Parker, alongside me, Doctor. Again, thank you all for tuning in here to Game Day, powered by Unique Beats.
It's go time, this is Game Day Sports Radio. Hope you got your game face on, let's go. We be talking all sports, every year a new season.